Surveyor 1, which is Luna 2, Luna 9, and then Surveyor 1. Okay, so Luna 2 was the first like man-made object to land or hit the moon, and it was launched on September 13th, 1959, and it was made by the USSR, and it was also used to find radiation. It found nothing. Next, there was Luna 9, which was like the first
soft landing.
first soft landing, yeah. Sorry. And it was launched on February 13th, 1966. And they were both made by the USSR. And lastly, we have the Surveyor, which is made by the U.S. and it was used to like find spots to land for future missions. It was launched on May 30th, 1966, and landed on June 2nd. And this like right here is like a picture from what it shot. So yeah, and I have a little video which I just put in.
This animation shows how Surveyor 1 looked as it came in for a soft landing on the moon. The date, June 2nd. As evidenced by these photos, a spacecraft can land on the lunar surface, and probably a man can walk on it. Some of the terrain is very similar to our soil. A man would leave footprints as he would in sand. Many rocks dot the moonscape. Future flights will photograph other possible manned landing areas and carry instruments to measure surface hardness, information needed before men land there.
So, yeah. Yep, that's it. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Nice job. So we're having nasty times with our friends from across the ocean. You know, there's a lot of animosity, there's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of, whoever wins space is going to rule the world, basically. And so this is what the thinking was back in the 60s. And the Soviet Union, the Russians, they were ahead of us. I mean, they were ahead of the United States. They put the first 2 people into space. I'm pretty sure they did the first spacewalk, and so they were just beating us to the punch. They put the first woman, first animals. I mean, they were first everything. And of course, we can't let those evil people win. Yet when we hear the comments from the Russian astronauts, it's just ridiculous how we behave as human beings. It really is. And so the astronauts are up there and they've got all this perspective, and they're saying, you know, when you see Earth from where I've seen Earth, what we have going on down here is really dumb. And of course it would take us, you know, a couple more decades before we started to figure that out. We still haven't figured it out. So we've got some of our manned missions going on. We have some of our unmanned missions going on. And who's next?
Is the Apollo 1 for Apollo 8?
Apollo 1. But the Russians were superior in rocket power. They were superior in their getting satellites up and their testing things. And so finally the Americans just decided we just have to get to the moon. If we can get a man on the moon, then the space race will be over.
How do you pull up the camera?
If you updated your iPad, just pull down from the top right.
Oh. Wrong button.
Did I see Christmas Vacation on there?
Correct. Also Harry Potter, yes. Top. I keep seeing Christmas Vacation. And keep seeing Christmas Vacation.
I don't know.
You just had it.
I did. Oh. There we go.
Oh boy.
Oops, wrong button. Okay. Time to get serious.
Yep.
Okay. Son of a schmush. I did, my group and I, or my group and me, we did Apollo 1 and The Great Tragedy by Zach. I'm Zach. Logan and Edward are gone. They are at work. Okay, let's do this. The crewmen, Ed White is on the left. Gus Grissom is right here. And Roger Chappie is right there. Right here, and then Ed White's there. The rocket was named Saturn 1B AS-204. 204. This is Ed White, the first American to walk into space, U.S. Air Force officer, test pilot, NASA astronaut, and an aeronautical engineer. All of these men were awarded the Congressional Space Medal of Honor after their unfortunate passing. Ed White. Okay. Gus Grissom was one of the original NASA Project Mercury astronauts. Thank you, Nikita. October 1st, 1978, he was posthumously awarded the Congressional Space Medal of Honor. That means basically he was dead when he got awarded that medal set. Roger Chappie, American Naval officer and naval aviator. He was an aeronautical engineer. He was awarded the Congressional Space Medal of Honor. He would have been the first Apollo pilot, basically. The disaster, the Apollo 1 disaster. The Apollo 1 fire took place on January 27, 1967 at 11:31. This happened during a pre-flight test for Apollo 1, known as Plugs Out. So it was a pre-flight test. Flames engulfed the test module, and the crew could not unlock the door or even escape. And they did something with the hatch lock, basically. The plug door hatch couldn't be opened because of the higher internal pressure of the cabin. And this is what the module looked like after. Not a pretty sight, is it? I don't think it's a pretty sight at all. These are the 7 causes of the Apollo 1 fire. Sealed cabin pressurized with an oxygen atmosphere. Vulnerable wiring carrying spacecraft power. Vulnerable plumbing carrying combustible corrosive coolant. Inadequate provisions for the crew to escape, as with the hatch and at an adequate time. Inadequate provisions for rescue and medical assistance. They didn't have many of them on site when the fire erupted. Excessive distribution of combustible materials in the cabin. Velcro, because it was cheap. Yes, Velcro was very cheap, and they already spent a lot of money. And the crew needed to keep stuff from floating because of zero gravity. They couldn't have any of their tools or food or anything floating off. And here is From the Earth to the Moon. This is a TV show from HBO. This is a scene that will illustrate what I was saying. Mr. Ward?
Yep.
I'll just sit over here.
So we're doing what's called the plugs out test, which is they've got a pressurized capsule, and they were running with like 100% pure oxygen, and Velcro is incredibly flammable under 100% pure oxygen conditions. Oh shoot, I had this already and then it powered off. Dang it.
Oh, crap.